Hi, everybody. This is Audrey Moore with the Audrey Helps Actors podcast, and this is episode 117. Feeling mean and gritty and downright dirty about getting into the acting career life stuff. Today, we're talking about balancing art and life. I know that sounds cheesy, but it's also pleasy. Today we have David Rosenblatt. David has finished every single self-tape made challenge, and his credits include the Minx, Little America, tons of commercials, and a little Tony-nominated play. You can see him at his yoga studio, Fire Hot Yoga. We discuss sustainability and diversification in your acting career, his experience doing every single challenge of Self-Tape May, and the emotional and psychological aspects of pursuing an acting career. Does it make you crazy? Yes. Does it make you sad? Sometimes. Does it make you happy? Yes. Does it give you clarity? All the time. So we talk about all the things. Okay, good news. Good news. The Review Baby is no longer starving. This week, the Review Baby is being fed by Rachel fucking Foskett. What's up, Rachel? Malloy, Haberman, Diesel225, and J. McK444. Thank you for giving me the validation that my mother continues not to give me. You guys, I want you to know this is true. I think for the first time, I think maybe ever, my mom actually just called me this week to chat. And I feel like there's some synergy going on. You know, I'm like, give me some of my mother's love, and then it's going out into the universe, and then it's actually coming back to me. So thank you for feeding the Review Baby. The baby was very hungry, like my desire of starving for validation and attention from my mom. That's how it is. Therapy. Please take 20 seconds to go to ratethispodcast.com/Audrey. This week's podcast is brought to you by Casting Networks. Go to castingnetworks.com/Audrey and use the promo code AudreyCN. That's Audrey CN for Casting Networks, not Audrey CN for Audrey Clay Nation, but Casting Networks for $65 off a premium annual membership. You should have seen the face Jesse just made just now. He was so disappointed. Okay, I hope you're on your way to audition, and I hope you book it!
Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything.
Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with the Audrey Helps Actors podcast, and today we have
David Rosenblatt.
Thanks for coming on.
Oh my gosh, I'm very excited to be here.
We wanted to have you on because last year I said anyone who completes all 5 self-tape mays, now this is the 6th challenge, and I said last year anyone who has completed all 5 years of the challenge, you are welcome to come on. But then you and I chatted because we're in a little commercial together, you guys.
Hey.
Little spotty spot. And we also went to the same college, went to the same conservatory a few years apart.
The Venn diagram, the part in the middle is getting wider.
It is getting wider as everyone quits.
Yes.
Then the remaining few are like, oh, we all know each other. Yeah. Awesome. First, as you know, we like to start the podcast with a little bit about yourself. So tell everybody, Are you union? What unions are you part of? How often do you audition? Are you repped? What kinds of things do you audition for? Commercials, voiceover, theater, film, television? Tell us the landscape.
It's so surreal hearing you ask me those questions after listening to it so many times.
Great.
It's like so meta.
Love it.
Okay, so yes, I am union. I am repped. I have a commercial rep. I have a theatrical rep. They are separate.
Great.
I went to college for theater at Boston University.
Whoop, whoop. Just be you.
Yeah. Got to be you at BU. Learn to be you at BU. And
that's what we paid the big bucks for.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Moved to New York after college. Did some time there. Did some theater there. Yep. And then in about 2016, moved out here. Fell in love with driving and listening to podcasts.
Oof.
And found you.
Yay, here we are.
Did I answer all those the initial questions?
So how often are you auditioning right now?
2024 commercial, 2 to 3 times a month.
Great.
Theatrical, 1 to 2 times a month.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And your commercial, are we talking obviously union? You're all union. And
yeah.
then theatrical, are we talking television, theater, film? Like, what are we talking?
Yeah, I would say it's mainly television, mainly co-star land.
Okay.
Every now and then a film.
Sure.
Every now and then, maybe like once or twice a year, a theatrical.
And you do a lot of other skills in your life.
Yeah.
So one of the things that we are talking a lot about during this season is my new word of the season, which is sustainability. Is this a sustainable pursuit for you? Is the way you are operating sustainable? So you do yoga.
Right.
He's quite the yogi. And what I really like about talking to anyone who's an expert in anything other than acting is we can have like sort of a nice parallel conversation. So one of the things that I remember learning in yoga, which was a great saying that I think about all the time in terms of our career and sustainability, was I was like trapped in some pose and I was miserable. And everyone, you could tell it's one of those days where everyone was like, oh my God, how long do I have to be here?
Like holding a pose.
Yeah, holding a pose and just general hell, you know? And then the yoga instructor, whom I love, said, okay, now I know everyone's feeling really uncomfortable. And I just want you to ask yourself, what if it was this? What if you're trapped in this pose forever? What adjustments can you make so that this pose has a different, more sustainable experience for you? And I remember thinking like, that's wise. And I think about that in terms of our acting careers all the time. I always talk about an acting career as a lifestyle, and that the lifestyle looks different than you probably thought it was going to, but still it's a lifestyle, and you can continue or stop that lifestyle at any point in time that you wish. And also, is it sustainable? Is the way that you are working currently sustainable? And one of the things I'm seeing from everyone that I know, no matter really how successful they are or have been, is this understanding that I only know one singular actor who is making their entire living off of theatrical acting only. And this is someone who got started very young and has a very low overhead on purpose.
Right.
And is wildly successful.
Right.
Right.
And it's not like you only know 5 actors.
No, I know all the actors. Right. And so this understanding of diversification, however you want to call it, whether that's theatrical pursuits plus commercial plus,
Right.
that the diversification of your time, energy, and talents is something that I'm seeing is necessary to maintain the lifestyle of pursuing the craft of acting as a professional endeavor.
Right. Yeah, well, I think about sustainability and just the self-tape May, and like I think about the 6 years of doing it, thinking it's such proof that I've maintained a certain level of sustainability.
Yeah.
So I tie that proof with the other jobs and the other, avenues of work. And it's like cooking with different burners and being able to like shift and not putting everything in the one pot, because if the water gets overboiled,
The water evaporates on one event, then you're out. You don't have anything, you don't have any water.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that's right. I think part of what has happened over these last several years, you tell me your experience as well, is I think the understanding of that the people who do work are making a living in working. And it feels like in the last, since about 2016, since you rolled up into Los Angeles, it feels like that expectation and really math, I wouldn't even say expectation, the math of that isn't true in the way that I know my friends who are second generation, third generation know about their parents' experience and grandparents' experience.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I have one of my friends that helps me with self-tapes all the time is a second to third generation actor in LA. And she's always had side projects and other things going on. And I think for a while it confused me. I was kind of like, why are you doing this? And it's just so kind of baked into the mindset of somebody who generationally has been in the industry that like that's the reality.
Yes.
And it's so nice. I feel like all of the yoga and even the work at the restaurant really informs the acting and really like allows me to be grateful for the days on set or the days where I get to do a bunch of auditions in a day. It gives me a good perspective.
That's great. I mean, I love that perspective. And how do you manage? Because what I notice is a lot of resentment from people who enter this industry, put a bunch of time and money into it, and then get success, as you have had, and then are still having to have various jobs, are having to either be a server or be a data entry person or be a yoga instructor or whatever it is, right? And then there is this, I guess, resentment that I see from actors because they feel like this isn't what I signed up for, which is a big part of my intention for the podcast. Is I just want everyone to know, like, the same way a second generation actor would know, this is what you signed up for. Right. So let me tell you before you're really upset about it.
Yeah. And I think that for me, I think that the moment I knew I wanted to be an actor when I was like 12 or 13 was also when my parents were like, you should probably think about getting a job at a restaurant. And I did. I was like a busboy when I was 14 years old.
You?
So I think it always has been baked into my head. There's going to be this other track that needs to go while pursuing the dream. So yeah, I think when you said when people are, just getting into the industry and putting a lot of time and money, it makes me think, is that post-school? Is that post a training program? Or is it just a decision, I want to be an actor and now I will move to this city?
I think it's quite a bit after that because once you finish school, I don't know about you, but when I graduated from Boston University and moved to New York, I was shook by the fact that literally anyone could decide to be an actor because I had thought for some reason that my training qualified me in a certain way. And I didn't realize that literally anyone could come from anywhere and for any reason stand in the same line to audition for the same role as me and often get it. And I thought, And I also knew that the degree wasn't going to differentiate me so much, but I guess I kind of thought differentiate me from others who had taken the same path. I just didn't really understand, oh no, literally anybody.
Right.
And so then there was like a emotional experience of realizing the truth of that. And then when I moved to Los Angeles, I think then it's this gestation period where you realize the dream versus the lifestyle. I think that's what I'm talking about.
Okay.
Is when people start, I find it hits around 27 to 30 if you've come from college, because that's when you're like, what is happening?
Yeah, what's going on here? Yeah.
Where is the monies? And especially if you've had success and you thought, okay, so this is it.
Oh yeah, I've had a couple of those moments.
We've all had those moments, like, and here it is. And then here it is to be was. It is to be the was.
Is turns to past tense.
Exactly. So what are your thoughts on all that?
For me, and it's something that you said when I heard you on a podcast, you were saying that you feel lucky to, from such a young age, know this is it. And there's a simplicity and a clarity in that. And I feel like a kindred spirit with that. There are other options. I'm not delusional about that, but it's very clear to me what it is I am supposed to be doing.
God, that's so great.
Yeah, it's just really true. And it feels like powerful to say. And I think it all the time, but I don't say it all the time. So I think that the moments where, one example is I did a play in New York. We did it at the Humana Festival and came back, got all these reviews. New York Times said specifically, David Rosenblatt, very good actor.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, it's going to happen. And then it didn't. I could just feel the momentum die. And it was just humbling. And then it happened again when I came to LA, and I thought, I've got all of this experience. And I know people said, nobody cares when you come to LA. And I went into a class with a kid, it felt like a kid who did the same scene as I did. And I have, at this point, 15 years of experience. And this kid felt like he decided to become an actor a week ago.
Yeah, right.
And crushed it. And just like crushed the scene. And it was so humbling.
Yes.
But for me, at no point was I like, I'm out. I'm getting out of this. It was just take the lesson, figure it out, be humbled. But to the analogy of even in a yoga studio, in a class, in a position, for me, there's no leaving the room. It's like maybe I need to change positions or I need to sit down. But for me, there's almost no option to leave.
What I really love is we're talking about the relationship of humility in both the craft and the professional pursuit. Because I, like you, have had so many times where I'm like, you guys, I just did this thing. And this feeling of being fluffed with special dust. I'm like, yay. And then something will happen and eventually I'm immediately humbled. But the humbling I find to be part of the very beautiful artistic growth.
Yes.
Because, a friend of ours who had also gone to Boston University, she was talking about transitioning from being a person who wants the success and the fame as an actor to somebody who really and truly is here to serve. And the difference in performance that she can see, and also the difference in quality of pursuit from other actors, and she's not an actor, she's a director, in the difference in that pursuit. And she was talking to me like, because you have the artistic pursuit. And I was like, I do now.
Right. Yeah.
But let's not fool ourselves that, the delicious validation and magic of it all is so intoxicating that I had to truly go through it to realize that is just playing dress up, just like acting is.
Right. Or honestly, being on this with you.
Yeah.
I think at a certain point in listening, I thought I could see myself one day on this podcast because of projects and because of this.
Yeah.
And I'm not on the podcast for that reason. I'm on for arguably a way more important reason. And when I overthought about getting nervous about coming, I thought, you know what? Despite that, or my thoughts wrapped up in the ego of it, this is like a service.
Right.
And so when I can kind of ground in that, whether it's this or an acting project, when it's that, it feels way more sustainable.
Honestly, you're going to make me emotional because the service part is the part that I have been so passionate about with regard to our art form for such a long time. And it's because I have really believed and felt that people day to day struggle and they turn to entertainment to soften the chaos and hardships of their life. And I feel that that is really beautiful and really honorable. And despite all the press around it, is actually an incredibly humbling lifestyle that takes a lot of shape-shifting internally and externally throughout decades of your life in order to continue to be of service in any way. And it sounds silly. I'm aware of that. David and I, we both do a lot of commercials, and thank goodness for that. And that helps us pay our bills for some of the other artistic pursuits, which is fantastic. But I'm not going to lie to you all. A good commercial is very artistically fulfilling.
Oh, yeah.
And when you're in like the mall, which I'm often in, and people are like, you're in this blah, blah, blah commercial. And I'm like, oh yeah, thanks. They're like, you're so great in it. And I'm like, yay. And it's like, I don't know, anything that I can do ever to just bring a little buoyance to anyone's day is something I'm passionate about.
Right. And I feel like that's a way better way of saying it than I just want people to forget about life. Because I don't want people to forget anything, but I do want to like bring light and moments of holding space. Yes, life can be hard, but there's also this. And it's not like a delete this thought and only think this thought.
Yeah.
But it's just making space for more things and maybe some light.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask you, in terms of self-tape May and your practice, tell me about having participated for so many years and what, if anything, you feel that has brought to you, and what, if anything, you think is good for others to participate in it for.
Yeah, I think that after 6 of them, it's just each month it rolls through. It's caught me in like a different season of things. And I think some seasons I was really like, the setup's going to be perfect every time.
Yeah.
And solid, and I want to show up in this way and have a theme or just do this kind of thing or work on something that makes me uncomfortable.
Yes.
And then other times I just want to play my guitar and sing a little
Loved
bit.
that you did that last year.
Yeah.
It was very clear to me you were in a space where like things had gotten overwhelming and hard. And you were like, I'm just going to show up artistically for myself. And I have to tell you, anytime anyone does that, to whatever degree, some of my favorite things are when people are like, hey, I'm just going to do these vocal exercises today for self-tape May. And I'm like, yeah, if self-tape May gets you to do your vocal exercises, then I am here for it. Because again, it's always a hard thing for me to explain to people because they're like, well, what is it? And how do I, and what do I do? And blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, whatever you want. What do you want to get?
I think that's hard. That's hard to not have parameters or feel like you have parameters. And I feel like for me, it took a couple of seasons of it to really figure out I can show up in any way that feels, because honestly, me showing up and saying, I don't feel like doing this today, but I'm doing it can be more artistically integral than reading copy from something, because I feel like this is the look that I'm going for, and this is the kind of thing that I should be auditioning for. So I think that's my biggest takeaway, is just realizing how different I've been each time the May rolls around.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's okay. It's okay to show up how you are in it. And sometimes it's really good to push through and challenge. And I don't want to just advocate for like whatever.
Yeah, right.
Because some people really need
to push through,
and other people need to really maybe relax or soften a bit.
One of the things I also talk about on the podcast regarding to yoga is that if you're like a type A grinder kind of person and you want to like, oh, go get yoga, don't go do power yoga. Go do the opposite. And if you're like I don't know, and motivation's kind of hard and like, I'm not really sure, then like maybe go to a power yoga class.
Yeah.
And so do the opposite to give you some balance.
The studio I teach at offers both traditional hot yoga, which is like the same sequence every time, and then also a vinyasa, more flow type. And it's always the people who go to the one I want to show up to the other one and vice versa.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they never, it's
never
I
happened.
always suggest it, never tell anybody anything.
Hey.
But yeah. But it's so obvious. Oh, you do this because you like it this way. Which
makes you feel comfortable.
Yeah, and that's got value, but also you got to push a little bit.
I think so. And everyone has to understand that whatever their push is in terms of especially sustainability is different for all of us. I had a teacher who used to say, danger is different for all of us. For some people, showing up to class drunk is dangerous. And for some people, showing up to class sober is dangerous. Both are real, but we have our points of view on one versus the other. And if you are too rigid, then maybe that rigidness is rewarded in a certain way versus loosey-goosey, or vice versa. And so it can lead to a measured growth as opposed to maybe a more expensive growth. Yeah.
And it's the same parallel with yoga of having a more rigid body and having a very flexible body. Like the same stretch can express very differently.
Yes.
Just where are you?
Yeah. One of the things I always talk to actors about, which I really love, is mastery. And mastery is this beautiful exchange between control and freedom. And I always love singers. Ice skaters are a really great art form to look at because you can really see the control versus the freedom. And it was in class, our musical theater days, and people would come up and sing, and then we'd have these great singers come in. And I couldn't be more bored if I tried. I mean, bored out of my mind. And then we would have actors who weren't as good singers come in.
Oh, yeah.
And they were just so captivating. And to me, neither would be competitive in the right way, because to really be on that professional high level, you would need both the mastery of the singing and the freedom of expression.
Right.
So you need the technical skill that allows you to be able to do it, but then you need the freedom to feel you could go anywhere and do anything with it. And that is what I think is really engaging to watch.
Yeah.
No matter what the art form is.
Yeah, it's like watching somebody completely freak out, but then knowing that there's a safety. You know, you're not actually watching a problem.
Right.
But you can kind of get lost in it.
Yes. Oh, wait, David. Wait. I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
This listener question is brought to you by Casting Networks. Casting Networks is where more, little pun, more professional roles are booked than any other casting service. Did I just book a job on Casting Networks? I sure did. Is it going to help me get my monies? It sure is. It is used by more than 1,000 of the world's biggest casting directors. With a premium membership, you can submit yourself to unlimited roles, connect with agents and managers through Talent Scout, very important, track your submissions with Role Tracker, and access to Thrive, which provides unlimited access to telemedicine and behavioral services, network pharmacy discounts, and home testing discounts. Love health. I am obsessed with health. I love it. It's because I'm also obsessed with death, which makes me obsessed with life and health. We are offering $65 off a premium annual membership. Instructions on how to redeem the offer can be found at castingnetworks.com/Audrey. Go to castingnetworks.com/Audrey and use promo code AudreyCN for $65 off a premium annual membership. Audrey CN, like Casting Networks, not Audrey CN like catnip. Call us with your questions at 667-ACTOR-70. That's 667-228-6770. I like your questions. I also just like your stories, your comments, your wins, your thoughts. I'm here for all of it. So here we go.
Hey, Audrey. My name's Eva. I'm a New York-based actor. And first, I just want to thank you. I feel like so much of the success that I have had in this business is directly related to advice that you have given on the podcast. I'm also a writer and a creator, and my question is, with the ever-changing nature of the industry, if you are the next Issa Rae or Abby and Alana, and you have work that you are creating, how do you get it in front of the right people? How do you find your collaborators? How do you get people to take a chance on you? Thank you so much. I love the podcast, and thanks to everything you and Jesse do. Bye.
You know, it really warms my heart when you guys also give a little shout out and thanks to Jesse. So thank you for that. Also, if I knew the answer to this question, how to get people to take a chance on you, boy, would I be a bajillionaire. That sounds awesome. Here's the only way I know seems to work pretty consistently across the board. It's just the equation I always use, which is hard work plus relationships plus over time equals a career. That's it. That's it. And, you know, magic happens, and magic is great. And I am so happy for and proud of everyone who has a career where they get to be both a creator and an actor. And I don't want to discount at all the incredible hard work that they have done. But everyone will tell you, like, there's like a little bit of magic. You know, for every single person that is an Issa Rae, there is at least 100 behind them who also created great content, is also a great writer, also went and pitched on tons and tons of meetings and had people say to them, you know, I really love this thing that you wrote. It's really great. You know what you should do? Turn this thing into like a viral article on like Medium. Like make it go viral. And then once it goes viral, come talk to me. Or another thing that my friends have heard, this is great. This is really great. I love this. So glad to meet you guys. You know what would be awesome is if you turn this into like a viral podcast, like a scripted viral podcast. So essentially, could you make this extremely successful first? And then once it's worth a lot of money, just call me back and I'll take your money and see if it's at all possible for me to push you further. So that's kind of the thing, it's just doing the work and putting it out there and getting better, and doing the work and putting it out there and getting better, just the same as an acting career. You do have to do the work, and then you have to do the important thing that many content creators don't do. You have to put it out there, and then you have to have the courage to then receive the feedback and get better. And that takes time. That just takes time. That just does. And sometimes it happens fast. And sometimes, most times, it happens over a long period of time. That's why I say, if you want to be a creative and creator, I really believe that it should be because it's something that you're really passionate about, not because it's something that you believe will move you forward as an actor. Like, I want to move myself forward as an actor. I'm going to be a content creator. Content creation is a fuck ton of work. I mean, it is so much work. I highly recommend, for those of you interested, going to episode 49, where I talk with Avatal Ash, and we discuss what is common and a little experience that happened to her, an incredible content creator and writer and actor. And you can hear about that little experience, which is a super common experience. So content create because you love it. Don't just be patient, but be patient and passionate over time. And hopefully people of value will see your value and they will invest in you.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
Okay, so we had some topics we wanted to discuss. You want to go through any of them?
Well, I guess for me, I just cut off a lot of my hair. I did a play where I played a young Catholic conservative. And so I had been wanting to cut my hair for a while and then had a good reason to do it. And so I cut it somewhere between where it is now and where it was, which was like pretty shaggy, like very like 70s.
You had a very cool Silver Lake shaggy haircut.
When the play wrapped and I came back to LA, I thought it's already this short. I kind of want to go a little shorter and just see what that does, because I just was feeling trapped. Yeah. And so I cut it, and I just got some new shots yesterday, and I'm curious. And I talked with my reps about it before I did it, just to see.
Check the vibe.
Yeah, check the vibe. And I felt like I got the green light.
Yeah.
So I did it. I'm getting new pictures developed. I'm going to put them up on and see kind of how the industry responds to it. But I'm just curious what to do, especially with my reels and things like that, with my materials.
So there's a couple things to discuss in terms of it. First of all, I would suggest not just talking to reps, but actually talking to casting directors who hire you, because reps have ideas, which is great. And depending on who the reps are, they may or may not be particularly informed. That depends on who your reps are and your relationship to them. But certainly you have had an incredible run in commercials over these last several years, which has been great. And look is so much a part of that. And what I have loved is that your look has been so varying in its interpretation with the long hair. You being kind of like the dopey hipster kid who loves Doritos maybe, and then to like the cool tequila guy, right? And I think that is pretty neat. And so one thing that might be worth doing is any of the offices that bring you in consistently, just ask them when you're at 200 South, right? If Allie's there, if Ross is there, anyone over at any of the offices is there, and just ask whoever the session runner is, hey, is so-and-so here? I just want to ask them a quick question. Time permitting, no big deal.
Yeah.
And particularly when you have earned a reputation of being somebody who shows up and is lovely and all of the things, right? They are more than happy to have those conversations. If you've never talked to that casting director before, everyone listening, don't go up and assume that you deserve a casting director's time.
Right.
But if you have a 8 to 10 year relationship of booking with certain people
Yes.
consistently, then to me, I would talk to the buyers and not to the sellers
Super smart.
to get some data. So that would be my recommendation. I don't think you need to worry about new shots or footage or anything like that because things change, all of that. I would be interested in whether or not this look is in alignment with your goals. And so that's something that I guess I would like to talk about.
Yeah.
Is commercial versus theatrical television film versus theatrical theater.
Yeah, I feel like my goals TV wise would definitely be to be able to start increasing the amount of character. And I feel like the roles that I've
Tell
done.
me what that means, the amount of character.
I mean more than co-stars.
Oh, I see.
yeah.
Dialogue and an opportunity.
Yeah. I am so grateful for all of the commercial opportunities. And I don't want to turn my back to that in the sense of like, well, if this look is working, then I'm going to go with it. But I also I just needed to change. And even if it's just for the 6 months and then it grows back out, or
Sure.
I talk to those casting directors and they say, grow it back out would be our suggestion. I'm happy to do it.
Great. So then if I'm hearing you correctly, your goals over maybe the next year or two is to grow your television and theatrical opportunities
Yes.
while maintaining some commercial revenue. Great.
Correct.
And you are currently in some confusion or lack of clarity about how either look will help or hinder you in either direction.
This is right.
Great.
Yeah.
Love it. Okay.
How did you do that?
I mean, it's communication, one of my best skills.
Okay.
Okay, great. So then I think we have some really great things to talk about.
Cool.
So currently, as I see your materials, as I looked through everything that you sent, you're not operating at a greater than co-star competitive level in the way you're presenting your materials, is what I would say. And I think it's also kind of symptomatic of your personality, which tends to be more laid back, more open, receptive to what comes your way, right?
Right.
And that's a fantastic quality to have. But in order to start knocking some people out, which you certainly have the capability and training and skills to do, that's where it becomes like I don't want to say it becomes war, but it becomes certainly
Different gear.
Yeah, different gear is a great way to put it. And essentially no one's trying to promote you is what I'll say.
Right.
So just like at the restaurant, right? How many times you worked at a restaurant and the squeaky wheel gets the grease and then you're like, well, that's not fair.
I literally learned that phrase working at a restaurant.
Truly.
Yeah.
Truly, because it's so real.
Yeah.
The person who's like, man, I don't think my shifts and and then suddenly they're getting like the best tables and the best tips. And you're like, well, F you, I've been here 3 years. Turned out you just needed to be like whining, you know? But in terms of your attack to move up, I guess I would say, first of all, have you done any research to see whether or not the longer haired look or the shorter haired look is viable in either direction? And do you know what that research would be?
The answer is no.
Great. So for commercials, the thing that I recommend doing is definitely first talk to some casting directors and ask them if this look is viable or if there is a version of this look that is viable. Because maybe it's short hair, but shaving. They'll know.
Yeah.
They'll say like, oh yeah, we're getting a lot of this type. And I think if you tried that, sometimes they'll even be like, just send me a picture, like shave your facial hair, send me a photo and we'll see. Also, you can always go and take a really quick 4-week commercial class, which I know for you and I, we feel like, well,
No, I actually really want to take it.
Great, let's do it together.
Yeah.
And then you do it and you just get a little bit more updated information from the session runners that are like running all of the commercials.
Right.
You can have a little bit more time talking to them.
Cool.
Okay. The other way to do it that's a really great hack is simply go back to every commercial you auditioned for since the last 12 months and look at who booked it. And that will tell you a lot about like, what were you actually up for? Which ones? And it takes like 20 minutes because it's commercials and they're like 8 seconds. And a lot of them you'll find haven't aired. A lot of them you'll find they like cut that role out or they went a totally different direction or whatever. But then you can see like, oh, what happened? They're going like this now with my type. Right?
I feel like I have done that with commercials, and it seems like when I don't book it, it's generally more often than not, it's a completely different
vibes. Like they're shopping for a bunch of looks. You're one of the looks, but they go a different way.
Yes.
Yeah. And so then I would just say, then I always ask myself, is that something in my control? So for example, for myself, there was a time I kept showing up like adorable, cute commercial. I mean, I was on a veil like 14 times. And then I looked and every girl that booked looked so sad. And I mean that in the most honest way. The hair was sad.
Oh.
Like they had not had it cut in 2 to 3 years. Roots showing. Absolutely like as shapeless of gray and brown clothes as possible.
For commercial. Yeah.
It was the absolute opposite of everything that I had known and had been booking and had been doing.
Right.
And I was like, oh. And so I literally just started doing that and I booked my very next commercial that I auditioned for. And so it was just like a trend had changed and I didn't know.
Right.
Right. So you can do that, but you can also just go on iSpot every morning. Look at they have like the top 10 spots that have aired. Go on iSpot.tv, everyone, and then just check and see what's booking, what's happening.
Right.
And if it's people in your category, and I want to say this to you specifically, that you don't recognize, I want you to sleuth because you're at an experience level now where you probably should know the people in your wheelhouse. And so if they're booking and you don't know who they are, you've never seen them before in your life, check and see, was that commercial shot in England?
Oh.
Was that shot in Budapest? Right? Just so you can also maybe know, just because it was right for you doesn't mean that it was an opportunity that ever presented itself to you.
Right.
Okay, great. So that's what I would do in terms of commercials, really for this or any varying look at all, because I do see that you're trying to decide, do I grow up a little bit more or do I keep the youthful look?
Right.
So then I would say in terms of theatrical, I'm going to give you 5 specific TV shows that I think you should look at. There are some shows, obviously, I just want to repeat this for everyone. They may have heard already. We're going from 600 scripted television shows before the strike to 250 to 300 after the strike. So yeah, we've quite literally been cut in half. And that said, I think Los Angeles, in terms of its tone, of the materials that aren't going anywhere, is perfect for you. Do you know why that is?
Tell me.
Great. So you are a bit of a clown, for those who don't know David.
Yeah.
And I mean that in not just improv-y way, but how you move and your body and all of that.
I feel so earnest and serious in this talk, so it's so funny. But it changes. It can just like soften so quickly.
Yeah,
no, you're right.
I think you're just like, I think of you as like a little bit of a clown. And the content, for the most part, that has a ton of roles every week for people to audition for, that shoots in Los Angeles, which is different than the New York market where everything is like dun dun. Los Angeles, it's like he's a cop, but he's a rookie and he's old. It's got Nathan Fillion, and it's like nobody's taking that seriously. Like the fun is that it's this rich guy who decides, you know what, I'm going to be a cop now. And then at the end of every episode, it's going to be me and my Malibu beach house, just chatting it up. And so in all of those shows in Los Angeles, there's usually like a more slightly dramatic storyline and then like a slightly more comedic storyline. But for you, I think that the tone of the majority of these shows is great for you because of that.
Yes.
Because they veer a little lighter, a little softer, right? So I'm going to give you some shows to look at. I'm just going to give you 5.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to overwhelm, but these are 5 shows that I believe to be coming back.
Cool.
Okay. So 911 and 911 Lone Star.
I've gone out for those.
Yeah, I bet you have.
In the past year.
Yeah. The Rookie. For those of you who are listening, I do have it on my Instagram. And we'll repost it just or put a link in
Like in
of the
pins.
shows of the things that have been renewed. So Matlock, which I think would be great for you. And then I would say anything Ryan Murphy, because he shoots like 18 shows here.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot of his shows aren't recurring seasons, but things like American Horror Story, obviously, and the 911 franchise, but that's different. But for me, it's any of his Hollywood, feud, crime, anything that are period pieces, I also think are a great tone for you.
Cool.
And have enough of a varying look that I would be interested in what you're seeing. So all you're going to do is you're going to go through and look through like the last season and just see if you see yourself.
Got it.
As you just keep in mind your body type, keep in mind your age range, and just look for things like haircut, facial hair. And if you're seeing that absolutely none of them have long hair, then that would be some good information. If you're seeing that all of the roles that you really feel like you could go out for have slightly shaggier hair, then maybe you go back to that a little bit. I also want to say, why is it that women can wear wigs for shaggier hair and men cannot?
Yeah, that was on a recent episode.
Why, yes, you
And
can.
It blew my mind.
Because, of course, you have a personal identity and maybe you want a little break from the long, shaggy hair. But I have a friend, I have multiple actually, but one in specific, whose hair has gone completely white. Works a lot commercially. She got a wig, so great, that is her hair, but the hair color before it went white.
Right.
And she books all the time.
And she doesn't have to dye her hair.
She doesn't have to dye her hair. She just pops it on, goes to the audition, calls it.
Yeah.
Just an option. Okay. So for me, if you're trying to do some of that investigation, that's something that I would recommend. I also highly recommend people going to casting director workshops virtually or in person. And you know, they have the thing where they're like, oh, you have any questions for me? Or like whatever. So not that section in the beginning where it's like these random questions. But once you finish your scene, just say, oh, hey, just like one really quick question. With my current look on the shows that you have recently or are currently casting, what kind of role do you see me playing? Just ask for one.
Yeah.
And then they'll say, they're like, oh, yeah, well, you know, we cast this role like such and such. And then like write it down and go watch it. But if we're talking guest stars, then that's the role you want to be looking at. Don't look at co-star actors. Because if you're trying to move up and you're looking at where you're trying to leave, then you're not headed in the right direction.
Right. And I feel like this is kind of where I have another question is where transitionally have that group of co-star credits, want to move up, don't know if I'm ready. I know that I'm ready on a acting level, but don't know if I'm ready within the industry to do it.
Here's some really great information. One is that there are a lot of one-day guest stars that, depending on who your agent is, they'll give you as a guest star or they'll give you as a co-star. Okay. So if you want to move to guest stars, you have to be willing to say, I'm only taking this role if they will give me a guest star credit. You just have to be willing to do that. I have had 4-line guest stars.
Great.
4 lines. Guest stars. Okay. So that's one thing to know about. And then in terms of getting beyond just the title into actual roles, you know, are you practicing at the level in which you want to receive?
And I hear what you were saying before about kind of operating in the co-star zone. And I feel like it is that personality trait of like, well, if this is the land for me now, I'm going to live in this land and not push.
Which is ironic because that's your exact judgment about people in yoga that go to your classes.
Right.
Right. So I would say if you're looking for larger roles, but you're not preparing yourself in terms of training to actually get them, receive them, have them, nail them, you know as well as I do, like what you focus on expands. And if you're focusing on where you're trying to leave, instead of focusing on where you're trying to go, all you're going to get is more evidence of where you're trying to leave. What you have to look at is your infrastructure set up for growth? And the only way I have found to really test that is to put yourself in the situation of the growth that you want to receive. And then that will tell you if your infrastructure is ready or not. Because if you don't, then you're going to get the opportunity. Your infrastructure will not be able to support it in terms of time, energy, and money. You will blow the opportunity. You will be mad at yourself. No one's thinking about it, by the way. Like nobody cared, but you. But you'll be insecure that you're going to get dropped or you're not really ready or whatever it is. But that's something in specific for you that I'm going to do.
I guess what's just coming into clarity for me is that like the shaggy hair look is working for commercials, but feels very co-star land theatrically. And then this feels like a little more like modern or something, but this is just my own perception.
But that's what I was saying. Like, but the problem with everything that you're saying is that you're literally just making stuff up. And making stuff up can be really dangerous because it allows you to be very susceptible to everyone's whims. And then you meet with this casting person or you meet with that manager or this friend of yours who's like working as an actor
this is so real
a lot. And then you're like, you're right. I should cut my hair and start wearing suits and I should grow a mustache. You just start creating fantasy lands and that's just not good business, right? And the research isn't that hard to just take a look-see through. Now, one thing I am seeing in terms of your execution that I want to talk to you about, because this is very real. As you know, I also transitioned from commercial focus to theatrical focus. I have also successfully managed my commercial gains. So this thing that you're saying of I want to keep getting commercial money, but I also want to get some of that sweet, sweet theatrical growth. I did it. And it is hard because you're looking then for organic growth in an area that you haven't been building growth. And so it's going to feel scary because it's like you kind of like have to let your hand go a little on the one so that you can make some room for the other.
Okay.
And that can be a little scary, just so you know.
Okay.
But one thing that I'm seeing in terms of your execution is, and this is common, is that your roles that I think are really great for you theatrically that are larger, I think they have a lot of darkness in them. And I haven't seen you go as dark as I think you'll need to go to kick those guys out of the way.
Cool.
And that can be common because when you've done a lot of commercials or you've done a lot of comedy or you're a clown, right? Then perhaps your natural proclivity is to keep things light. And then you kind of get into this performance style. Right? Which for commercials is, even if it's bad, it's not that bad.
It's like a frequency.
It's a frequency. It's a great way to look at it. And I have found in my own experience and in many of my friends, whether that's your own practice or adopting a coach or somebody of that sort who you feel is qualified to help you do that. But like you are at an age and experience level where you can really start to hold yourself accountable. You might need a coach to like trick you in ways to push you to get you there, perhaps because it's not your natural proclivity.
I already know who it is. As soon as you said that, like it's just very clear and also very exciting because I'm more than capable of
I know
doing
you are.
it. Yeah.
No, I know you are. And
that's
so
like New York David or something.
No, totally.
And New York David doesn't belong in LA.
Right. And also like, let's talk about size of roles in terms of story, right? So the first thing that you're going to get in co-stars is what people naturally see. And then it's like what they naturally see plus a reveal is usually a guest star. But then like a recurring guest in a series regular is what people naturally see and then the other side and then the sort of going in between those things. So if you're like a jovial, silly, meditative guy who things aren't a problem, then the arc is gonna be the absolute opposite.
Cool.
Which is really fun.
Yeah.
And then if we're getting like really large roles, and depending on if you're supporting or if you're lead, you'll either get to be the person that goes in and out of those places on a consistent basis, or is somebody who mostly stays in one place and then gets a jump and then maybe comes out of it or doesn't.
That's so cool.
Oh, it's so much fun.
Yeah.
I have the same struggles where I, in life, think like life is already it can just be so traumatic and so much harshness that I have no interest in bringing more of it to my life experience, right? But then what happens in my work is I lose conflict.
Yes.
Because in life, like a master, like let's smooth it out.
Oh, that was my biggest problem when I started. I had moved to LA after doing intensive yoga training in New York. 6-month vegan, raw food, like really spiritual. I came out here and the notes from all the on camera acting teachers were like, it's too easy, it's too relaxed, it's too smooth out. So yeah, I totally feel that.
And so just like somebody who, usually it's men who only yell and scream and want to punch things when they begin, or actresses who only want to show off how much they cry. It's like kind of the opposite of that.
Right.
It's like we have to ask ourselves to bring the yucky part and the yucky part that feels uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, I don't like that. Nobody needs that, Audrey. But if the character Diane needs it, then I better bring it.
Right. And I think about what moves me the most when I'm watching something, and it's usually somebody bringing out that quality, and it touches me.
Yes.
And even if it makes me, think about an ugly thought or something, the result is a catharsis. And then afterwards I feel better and lighter, even if in that moment it's ugly.
Yes. It takes courage.
Yeah.
I mean, that's what's so beautiful about what we do, right? Is the constant revealing of ourselves and the constant searching further in ourselves for what more we have to reveal.
Right.
I mean...
Yeah. I mean, the theater that I just did was so much that, and it was just 3 weeks of complete getting to do that and feel the audience at the same time and feel them witnessing it. And it was a character who was very much a clown on the surface, but it was in big spiritual conflict. So...
I mean, am I just good at what I do?
Yeah, you're pretty... It's like you knew what I did, but you
like,
didn't. I know you didn't.
Okay, great. So yeah, I like asking buyers. In general.
My fear is going to them and saying, this is what I look like now, and then being like, well, now you look like this, so we can't, them being mad that I've made decisions.
Okay, well, just so you know, they don't care about you that much. I just want you to know.
Yeah.
But what will happen is usually this. This is the communication that will tell you everything. If you're like, hey, so, I just want to talk really quickly. So, I did this show. I had to cut my hair and everything. And if you get from them this look like, yeah. Well, then you're like, no, like that's the alarms, okay? Right. But instead of just leaving, say, so maybe this is not as commercially viable. What are your thoughts? Just to like open it up, because they may not want to be ruthless, or they may feel sensitive, or they don't want to come across as a jerk.
Yeah.
So you just have to kind of give them permission to be honest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great. So tell me, other than what we've talked about, do you have any questions for me?
Theater.
Yeah.
I did the play. It was out in Utah, and really felt that reignition. That's what I did in New York, and thinking I really want to give LA a fair shake in terms of going to see all the theater I can, going to make connections with all of the people I can, starting to build relationships with the people who cast those plays. And your thoughts?
Yeah, theater is complicated in that I always think of theater as that guy that I would date who was just like really great in bed, but like he had no job and no car.
No way to support you.
It wasn't a good decision. I read Shakespeare and it's like I have to be like, because it gets me. I read a paragraph and I'm like, and we only do this from now on. I'd be like, no, back, William, back. So I understand. There are people who are doing all of it, and I am happy to introduce you to some of those people. But what I will say is there is a finite amount of time, energy, and money. And the time that you are spending doing theater And pursuing that growth is time and energy and money that you are not pursuing a different area of growth. And so you just have to ask yourself, do you have the capacity for all of it? And if you don't, but you still want to do all of it, then that just means it's going to take more time.
Right.
Then I hope you win the lottery. It's trade-offs.
Totally.
Yeah.
To me, the value is, it felt like I went to the gym and it felt like my acting muscle and my memorization muscle and all that was really, really strong.
And so what I would ask you is,
Can I get that?
If you wanted to, because listen, I auditioned for a play during the strike and I called back and we did the whole deal. It was a Zoom callback and my husband was there watching and he said something like, that was just kind of really too bad that I had to walk away from all of it because I'm really good at it.
Yeah. I would kill to see you in a play.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
But I just literally had to make a financial choice.
Right.
And now that our classmates are on Broadway and winning those awards, but once the play's over, they have no money left versus my compounding residuals, both commercially and theatrically over time.
Sustainability.
Yeah. Sustainability. And then not just sustainability in terms of money. I have to be honest for myself, sustainability in terms of energy. Plays take me out.
Oh, yeah.
And I don't know that I can do that and also continue all the other pursuits.
Right.
Yeah. But I love it.
Because even in the run, it felt like, well, we show up at 7, we do it, done by 10. The whole day is free.
Yeah.
That's the time to do all this other stuff. And so much of that day is recovery.
The whole day is recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, my whole day was recovery.
Yeah.
I literally would wake up, have tea, just rest, have some more tea.
And then prepare. Right.
Yeah. Yeah. And I feel strongly that that means it is a giant give. And I would prefer AT&T commercial money for it, if I'm going to be honest.
So for me, the thing is, how do I find what that experience gave me?
you?
Yeah. Okay.
And it could even be a once a year thing,
right?
Or could be a class experience, a class environment. Tons of great environments like that in Los Angeles that are doing lots of theater-esque stuff.
And I think I was allergic to that for a while after school, of being like, I don't want to take a class that teaches me how to act in a scene study class. I want to learn how to book this co-star.
Totally get it. I have a great teacher for you that I'll tell you about.
Cool.
Who's kind of known for taking giant theater nerds who quit the theater nerd world for professional pursuits, but miss the beauty and grace of that work.
Cool.
Great.
Sounds right up my alley.
Tell everyone where they can follow you.
Oh, you can follow me on Instagram at DRosenB.
Yes. Do you want to spell that for them?
D as in David, Rosen, Rosen, and B as in boy.
And where can they find you at yoga?
Oh, I teach at a studio in Atwater Village on Glendale Boulevard called Fire Hot Yoga. It's hot, but it's not crazy.
Great. Do you do privates?
I do privates, groups, things like that. And you can just reach out to me and it's really fun.
Little mini yoga groups.
Yeah. Sometimes the one-on-one can feel like too intense.
Yeah.
And you bring a friend or you come with a bunch of people and it's really cool.
Great.
Yeah.
The couples that yoga together stay together, you guys. I'm just going to say that. My husband and I, we don't yoga together. It's because I'm not allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. Great.
Doctor's orders.
Yeah, doctor's orders. Okay. Lastly, you get to pick a plushie. Okay, but here's the rules. You get 20 seconds and then you got to choose a plushie and then you got to come back and sit down and tell us about the plushie that you chose. You can choose behind you or in front of you, any plushie. All plushies are up.
More than 20 seconds?
No one's taking more than 20 seconds, but I'm going to start counting.
Okay.
Now, ready? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Yeah. Oh my God, so great.
This was easier than I thought it would be.
I mean, what a plushie. Look at that little creature.
Yeah, he's a little mischievous.
He is a little mischievous.
But he's like kind of clown-like.
That's why I like him for you. Yeah. Yes. You're going to take this one home.
Thank you. Wow.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you for having me.
This conversation for me has been an experience of like, you know, when you go out to a lake and then the wind hits and you're like, oh, God, that was nice. Like, that's what this has felt like.
I don't know that, but I want that now. And if that just happened for you, that's amazing.
Well, you know, the future is upon us. So I wish nothing but as many lakeside breezes as you can stand.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. So thank you so much for coming on. I really appreciate it. And thank you for all of your honesty and candor. Next week on Audrey Helps Actors, we have Kathleen Suit. I am so grateful to you. Thank you, David, for coming on and just being so awesome. This episode was mixed and mastered by Thomas Snodgrass. He loves to surf. Hang 10, buddy. Hang that 10. It was produced by my incredible producer / husband, Jesse Lumen. Still so handsome. What is wrong with you? What happened? Why? It is not fair. It's appreciated. I appreciate it. Like I appreciate it. But also why? This episode was edited by Anisha Adusumilli. Show music by Ari De Niro. Theme song by Aalok Mehta and 108 Hill. Don't forget your towel! Thanks to Casting Networks for sponsoring this episode. A new feature they're offering is called Thrive. It gives you health benefits, and I love health benefits. I, Audrey, love health benefits. Telemedicine with behavioral health. You can enjoy unlimited access to telemedicine and behavioral health services, saving an average of $564 from medical and mental health care per year. You'll get up to 80% off on prescriptions. You can also get offers on home health testing, medication delivery, and virtual consultations. Save 25% off on most Let's Get Checked tests. You guys, I love getting tested. I can't even tell you guys how much I love getting tested. Jesse, how much do I love getting tested?
She can't get tested enough.
I cannot get tested enough. It just soothes me in a way I can't describe. The best part, it's free for premium members who are based in the US and over 18. You know my favorite price is free. Go to castingnetworks.com/Audrey and use promo code AudreyCN for $65 off a premium annual membership. That's AudreyCN for Casting Networks, not creative networking. Although it is the same, Audrey CN.